approach made the most sense to you? Okay.
I like the functional approach personally, just because I've worked with it before, but like it just makes the most sense and it's super outlined in the book, like what task related roles are and individual roles throughout a group are and stuff, and it breaks it down that way. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else liked that or liked a different one.
I like that one too, and the path goal theory where you're motivated to get things done, because everyone wants something in the end. It makes them motivated to get working harder.
Exactly.
I liked a little bit of the situational model, and I think that's where the path goal theory was in the situational, because you could match like your communication skills with that situation. You know, like let's say I had this task and these followers, and this combination of the communication style fit everyone to get to that goal. So I kind of like that.
Yeah.
You use both your interpersonal skills plus your task skills and combine them together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Cool.
I think it's also like really important because, you know, when you are in a situation, you find out maybe the person you think is the leader isn't actually the leader. And somebody will just take the reins, and sometimes it ends up working.
You know, it's funny you say that because, you know, you have, in a lot of groups or teams, you have the person that's supposed to be the leader. But you also have people that we call the silent leaders, or the peer leaders, which is the ones who are also subordinates, but people listen more to them than they do to the main leader. You understand? Am I explaining it correctly?
It's definitely true. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Kind of like I was saying about like having my boss in the last video who was just gone all the time. You know, there was 3 other supervisors, myself and some other people, and you know, people respect us and listen to us more because in that situation, we were the ones that were leading the group. You know, we cared. So
you were there.
We got the respect, and you know, they answered to us.
Yeah, you assume the role. You assume the role of the coordinator or the organizer, and you naturally fit into that leadership role.
Yeah, and that's important as you all you young ladies move forward. You know, and you end up in those leadership roles. You want to do that. You want to make sure, again, that we talked about in the last video was or I don't know if I mentioned it, but you want to cross train your people, and you want your people to know everybody else's job as much as possible. Because if that one person's missing, whether it's the leader or somebody else, the team keeps moving.
Still function like a machine.
Exactly, like a true, nice, silky machine that just keeps moving and moving and moving and moving without any obstacles, at least obstacles as possible. Because as a leader, you always want to, you know, worry about or set up a process in place to handle the contingencies that'll come up. You have to do that.
I thought the transformational theory was interesting. It seemed to be more like for maybe like world leaders, or to be an inspired leader. It wasn't, I mean, it's almost like that ultimate goal. Like, I want to be the inspirational, energetic, inspiring leader, and people, I have this vision, and I like the thought of that. I like the idea of it, but those leaders also sort of get stuff done too. I don't know.
I think each different approach has its time and its place. You know, there are times when you need the situational leader, or that you need someone who's path to goal driven. It really, everything is in its own way kind of relevant. Just in different situations.
Because remember what we discussed earlier, that you have to be more than one type of leader.
Exactly.
You have to have different skill sets, different forms of leadership that bond only as one. So whether you be authoritative, whether you be, you know, all these other leader types, it still comes to one. So it's like having 5 fingers on one hand, right? If you just use one finger, it's not going to be as strong as putting all the fingers together to create a fist.
True.
Yes.
So it's the same shit with leadership.
Yeah, employees are different too, so I feel like you need to lead them based on their personalities.
Exactly.
Depending on what will motivate them best to get the task done.
And that comes in with knowing your people. Like when you
Knowing
become a
your
leader,
people.
yeah. You know, when you become a leader, you should evaluate each person one-on-one. Give your team or your team members your expectations of what you're looking for or what you want to achieve with the team. That way everybody's on the same page.
And not only that, you have to give everybody their own specific role, which is, you know, another important part of even what the chapter is saying, how each person has their own specific task related role. There's like the initiator and the elaborator. The energizer is really important too. You know, you have that one person who's there and kind of just makes the team want to do what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I was interested in that, and I think it was in chapter 2, so it was in the previous one about they talked about all the different types of followers, and I never really had thought of it in that perspective, like looking at it, well, I'm a leader leading all these people. It's not just how my actions as a leader, it's how I evaluate my followers, just like what you said. Who's best in what role?
Yeah, who gives what value to the overall function of everything.
Yeah, I also think it's like important in the individual roles about how it recognizes that there's always like aggressor or like a blocker, and how you kind of have to change your leadership to address those type of people in each group too.
Right.
You know,
there's no one approach.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, it's not.
No, just saying that there's no one approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there isn't. Definitely right.
It's not.
I couldn't.
One thing, you know, from being, again, you know, being the oldest one in this group at a half a century, one thing, always remember this, and I'll joke around when we're on here, and I'll say, 50 years old, but wisdom has nothing to do with age, so always remember that. Somebody say it as a joke, just always remember that. You could be 21 and have all the wisdom in the world and a 98-year-old man can have, or lady. So, like in the military, we have, as soon as you get to boot camp, they take you off and they start trying to make you leaders. They hire you, fire you, hire you, fire you. And we have a squad. The squad has the squad leader, and then you have individual teams. And inside those individual teams, there's a fire team leader, there's a guy that carries a machine gun, there's all this stuff. But each person knows everybody's job. But they still, like you said earlier, have that one specific job that's their main job. So even though we all have our individual jobs to do, you still should cross-train them because it'll help support the rest of the team. When you're done with your part of the job, exactly. When you're done with your part of the job, if you're done with yours, you go up to your next team member. Hey, what do you need? I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I'll get you some coffee. I'll be right back.
We have this saying in my store: "You put your aces in their places." You have to put people, you know, where they're most suited, where you as a company or as a corporation, as any entity, are going to be most suited for the most benefit overall. You know, and I don't know if any of you are in the college achievement plan with Starbucks, but I work for Starbucks.
I go to Starbucks all the time.
Thanks for that. But you know, when you have a very busy day, you don't want the newest barista on bar. You know, I've been there 2.5 years, and sometimes I'm the supervisor. You know, as a supervisor, I have to go and run my shift from the bar because I know that's where the most good is going to be done.
Yeah, you know, that ties right into, there was something in the book about, it's called like, I wrote it down, managing by wandering around. Like that's exactly what you were doing. You were going to each area in Starbucks or wherever and deciding, okay, well, this person is, you're in it. You're in the trenches. I think like the best managers have been in the trenches with the rest of their team. They're not just sitting up in their office saying, okay, well, I think you should be here, you should be there. Like you're in it. You're watching it work in that role, and you're saying, well, you know, you're wandering around. You're saying, okay, well, you should be over here and you should be doing this role instead. That's exactly what you just described.
It's good that you work in the trenches with your people. What you don't want to do is get boggled down in the weeds.
Oh yeah, like micromanaging, absolutely. Yeah, allow them to do their jobs too.
You get tunnel vision a lot because you're there trying to help your people, okay? And then you're not seeing the whole spectrum of the big picture.
Sure.
So you can't see the forest if you're inside the forest, but you can see the forest if you're on top of the hill. So,
You see the trees?
so it's good because your people see that you're not scared to jump in the trenches with them, which is great.
And start working.
Which is great. Exactly. Right. If it's lacked, if there's a place, sweetie, where it's lacked, and you need to jump in there and help at that point in time, help at that point in time. But remember, your responsibility is to do what?
Supervise.
See the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
And manage the whole picture and run the whole picture. But jump in when it's needed, but then jump right back out and make sure that everything else is running smoothly.
Well, that was one of the biggest things that we were saying for a really long time is you can't have a leader who won't do what you'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're not just there to boss people around. You have to be willing to
do it. Yeah, you have to know it in order to lead people to do it for you.
They have to see it. They have to see it. It goes back to what? Lead by example. Your people have to see that you are willing to do their job or do somebody else's job, or even go into even as a supervisor where you work at, or manager, that you're willing to go there and clean that freaking toilet if all your other people are busy serving customers.
Sure.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. So,
what did you guys think about the section on the charismatic leaders? That whole theory about charismatic leadership.
That's Hitler.
Oh my God.
We were just talking about Hitler.
Wow.
You have to be charismatic. You have to be. Because if people are not, like, if they look at you and you think that you're not approachable, you're gonna have issues with your team. So you have to be charismatic. That is a big trait for leaders.
Yeah, because it talked about like being a relationship builder and becoming sort of like a partner with the other people, like with your followers, versus just their manager. Like you're taking that relationship to the next level.
Yeah. But that goes to also to knowing your people. You have to take the time to know your people individually. And that's where the relationship comes in, because you want to build that relationship with your people, because that way when they come in, and say Angelina comes in and she she has this groggy face or whatever, if you get to know your people, you'll know whether she's sick or hungover, or she doesn't want to be there, or she's having man problems. One of those things. But by knowing your people, you'll know how to handle the situation.
How to handle, yeah.
And that's building your relationships. It doesn't take that long. Hey, how many kids you got? Well, I had, hey, well, how are your kids? How's this? How's that? It shows interest in your people.
Relatable. Yeah, you have to be relatable.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I, work with the same 6 or 7 people most of the time, of the staff of about 14. And, at the end of the day, I have to know, okay, this one's about to cry. You need to go de-escalate this situation now.
That's it right there.
And I think that's a lot of it. You have to de-escalate a lot.
Yeah, you have to recognize and assess and be ready to come in and do the right thing for your people, of course.
And parent. So basically, remember what I said earlier? You have to treat them like they were your kids.
Yeah. Being a leader is like having children.
It's one thing that we always say in our classes is, if you love your subordinates the way you love your children, they will always have your back, because they'll see it. Right. And there's nothing that sometimes you can just tell somebody at that point in time when you build that relationship with your subordinates, you tell them, hey, Sarah, you do me just go get that crap done, please. Yeah, Marla, no problem. Because you know where I'm coming from, because we build that relationship. You know that I'm just not telling you to go do some crap that I wouldn't do, or blah blah blah. Right. But that somewhere along the line, it'll balance.
Yeah, it's like take care of your people and they'll take care of you.
And they respect you more for it.
I had a lieutenant in the Marines.